find your FN SCAR's trigger to be too heavy for your liking? The Geissele Automatic Super SCAR Trigger may be the solution for you. This two-stage trigger requires noticeably less pulling force than your factory trigger to ensure that you get your shots off faster and more accurately. Inside the package, you'll find a shortened grip screw and lock washer, the Geissele hammer, pre-assembled trigger assembly, as well as the instruction manual. This video is not intended as a replacement to the printed manual. Please ensure all firearms are clear of any ammunition prior to installing your Super SCAR trigger. After ensuring your firearm is clear and safe, push in the takedown pin on the front of your lower receiver. Now, the lower receiver can be slid forward and separated from the upper assembly. You can set the safety selector to the safe position and remove the small flathead screw on the right side of the receiver. The left side safety selector can be left alone. Be sure not to lose these small parts when installing the trigger. You can very gently pry off the safety selector from the right side of the firearm. Remove the Allen screw, holding in the pistol grip. Reinstall the pistol grip with the new screw provided by the Geissele trigger, as well as the lock washer. Now you can firmly push the safety selector out the left side of the receiver. Remove the trigger group retaining plate by sliding it towards the back of the lower. Now it should easily lift up and slide off the pin. Hold the hammer while pulling the trigger and be sure it doesn't smack the receiver. This could cause damage. Starting on the right side of the receiver, push out the hammer pin with a large punch. The hammer pin may be tight. Some models may have a second retaining plate. The upper pin needs to be slid out slightly using a punch. Now this retainer can be lifted up and out of the way. You can now remove the hammer, the guide rod, and the spring. You can now remove the trigger spring pin. To remove the safety selector detent, flip over the receiver and tap. The last step to disassembly is to push out the trigger pin and make sure to pull out all the trigger parts. Geissele makes the Super SCAR pretty easy to install by pre-assembling the trigger assembly. The trigger is being held together with the steel pin. We will use the trigger pin to push out this pin and hold in the new trigger. Paying attention to the direction, install the trigger through the hole in the bottom of the receiver. Move the trigger around until the trigger pin hole lines up with the trigger. Now you can slide your punch through, which will eject the assembly pin. Now insert the trigger pin all the way and push out the punch. Verify the trigger spring is even and not riding to one side or the other. The legs on the spring should line up with the side of the receiver. Now install the safety selector detent and spring. On the upper trigger spring pin, there is a small and large hole. Insert the pin with the large hole facing the front of the receiver. The trigger spring and guide rod will sit on the hammer. Insert the guide rod and hammer spring onto the upper pin and slide the hammer into place. After lining it all up, you can install the large hammer pin. If equipped, you can now install the right side retaining plate as you removed it. Now you can cock back the hammer. Ensure the hammer releases on the second stage. The left side retaining plate slides over the rear pin, flips down, and then needs to be pushed forward. The safety selector can be installed from the left side of the receiver. You may have to twist it around to get it all to fit. You may have to push down the detent and get it to slide all the way through. Make sure the safety selector goes into both the safe and fire position. The right side safety selector slides over the pin and you can install the set screw. Holding the hammer so it doesn't slap the receiver in case of failure, make sure the safety selector functions properly. To begin mating the upper and the lower receiver, make sure the takedown pin is pulled out. Insert the rear of the receiver into the upper, slide it into place, and push down. Now you can slide in the takedown pin. It's a good idea to function check your firearm prior to firing. Ensuring the bolt is closed, make sure the safety selector works. After ensuring the safety works, flip it over to the fire mode. After the second stage engages, you should hear the hammer hit the firing pin. Now cycle the bolt and do it again. To make sure the hammer is resetting properly, hold down the trigger while cycling the bolt. Let go of the trigger and then listen for the firing pin to drop after you pull it again. After installing your Geissele Super SCAR Trigger and function checking your firearm, you're ready to load your magazines and try out your weapon on the range and in battle. I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for similar content.